Hello! And welcome to a very special Vandal Factory podcast. My name's Natalie Quatermass.
I'm Henry Raby.
And together we are Vandal Factory. Now you might notice that we're not actually like shouting that out like we usually do when we're in the studio. Why is that, Henry?
We are in the great outdoors.
We are indeed. We are in Kettering with a K and an E and a T and a T and an E and an R and I N G. Kettering Town FC. Yeah, you nearly did it. Well done. Why are we here?
We're here because this weekend we are doing a live recording of the Vandal Factory podcast at Greenbelt Festival, which is a festival about art, activism and faith. So it suits us down to a T, because this is a podcast about arts and activism, isn't it, Natalie?
Mm-hmm. So we've just arrived at this lovely festival. It's my first time here. You were here last year, weren't you?
Yeah, so I did a poetry set on the old Rebel Rouser stage, and I must have impressed them, put in a good word, because they said, do you want to come and do a live podcast here? And we were like, hello.
Yes, please. So that's what we're here doing. On Sunday, we will be doing a live podcast with some extra special guests, and that will be released after this episode, right? So we're releasing this episode first, where we'll get some sneak peeks of the Greenbelt Festival, as well as some of our regular features, which are...
We've got two lovely interviews in this episode, kind of linked because they're about mainly theatre. The first one is with Marina Barham, who is from the Al-Harah Theatre in Palestine.
Then we've got an amazing interview with Amber Massie-Blomfield about her new book, Acts of Resistance, which is awesome.
It is pretty awesome. We've all got a contribution to the Freelance Feelings Factory.
Freelance Feeling Factory. I don't think we need a jingle now. It's just become a thing, hasn't it? We sing Freelance Feeling Fact. Yes, we do. Me and the choir that's in my head.
I'll just copy paste that. I'll just cut and I'll just reuse it over and over again. Oh, maybe because there's a lot of choirs here a lot of gospel choirs. So if we get a gospel choir,
I cannot wait to get my gospel on. I'm really excited. I'm excited for a whole range of music. You're the itinerary guy, and I'm the go with the flow and think as little as possible guy. But we've set our tent up.
Yeah.
We're sitting here. We've got little stubbies. You can hear us.
Cheers.
There we go. Audio theatre there. Yeah. And we're looking at it's beautiful evening. What time is it? About 6. Nearly 6, so really summery, lovely evening.
We've set the Vandal Factory flag on the tent.
Yes, we have. Check out our socials for the Vandal Factory flag. And we're looking forward to, we're going to finish our stubbies and then head off into the festival very soon.
Now, at the start of every Vandal Factory episode, we like to ask each other, how's your hope and how's your anger? And it's been quite an angry month. We're recording this about a month after the eruption of far-right violence happened across the UK, and I guess we just wanted to readdress that commitment to opposing racism, opposing the far right.
My heart goes out to everyone who's been directly and indirectly affected by that. And are we allowed to swear? I always forget.
We've started to now.
Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck the bastards.
And also, like, I guess, like, fuck the response of, because the language is like, it was just far-right thuggery and it's hooliganism, which it is, but that's the answer rather than the systemic bubbling away of racism, this, like, demonization of multiculturalism.
This is a symptom of years and years and years of letting them get away with it, and years of disenfranchisation and a lack of education and all this stuff. So let's change that system. Let's use arts to build a new one.
And let's use arts to do that. So I think that art's a powerful tool of bringing people together, and I've seen hints at like returning to like Rock Against Racism models. There's theatre companies that are doing amazing, stirring work with migrant communities. I just got a little list here: Mafwa Theatre, Tamasha, Besna, Migrants in Theatre, Kakilang. There's also Decolonise Fest. So if you want to see or connect up with organisations that are working in arts that are just bringing people together and defending multiculturalism, defending a different way of life than just brute, violent hatred of one another, then yeah, check them out.
Yeah, and I think this weekend that's ahead of us is going to do all of that. I'm hoping that we can seed lots of inspiration and lots of hope and joy, and that's what I'm hoping for this weekend, is to be inspired and rejuvenated by how good the world can be when people are good to each other.
Yeah, hoping we can put the angriness to the side and work out where's the hope in the future going forwards. Bring on the hope. We're going to finish with a really hopeful quote, actually. Our good friend Suhaima Manzoor Khan. Shout out Suhaima! Hello!
Hello!
So Suhaima is an amazing poet and playwright. Her play has just opened at the Kiln Theatre down in that London called Peanut Butter and Blueberries. And Suhaima put something on Instagram that I just thought was just stirred my soul. My soul was stirred like a beautiful cup of tea. And
If your soul was anything, it would be just a cup of tea.
Cup of tea soul. And I asked Suhaima if she would read out part of her sentiments that she put online for the Vandal Factory podcast, and she very kindly sent in this audio. So we're going to go and catch some cool bands this evening and have a lovely time with some pals, and we'll leave you with these hopeful words from Suhaima.
I think to choose love, to always love, is also to choose to commit to light, to refuse despair without negating heartache, to choose humanity, to choose transformation. I think love is more than just beautiful. It is transcendent. It is nabawi, prophetic. It is all that can possibly move us to go a different way, so we are not stuck in these cycles of violence that benefit only the elites who divert us through hatred of each other. The devil's playbook is old and boring. White supremacy and capitalism are old and boring. Love is old, but to me, never boring.
Thank you, Suhaima. You've now joined us 12 hours later as we head back into the campsite.
Suhaima had joined us 12 hours later. That sounded like you were speaking directly to her, which of course we are, as we are talking to all our listeners.
Lovely listeners.
You join us, you the listener join us as we're on our second wind, aren't we, Hennes?
Oh, we've had some crisps and some mac and cheese.
And we've had some ibuprofen gel and a little lie down for Natty.
We are in our mid-30s.
Yeah, rest your achy back. But it's now, 4 o'clock on Saturday?
Yeah.
Day 2 of our Greenbelt Festival. What an amazing time we've had. The acts, we've seen a whole host of different speakers and musicians, and
felt all the feelings.
Oh my goodness me, yeah, everything is just like a gift to the soul.
How many times have you cried, Natalie?
Today? About 5.
Oh dear.
Genuinely 5. Which is less than the last 4 weeks. That's good going.
Good going.
Yeah, what have you seen?
So yesterday I went to the Rebel Rouser stage, which is programmed by friends Hannah and Stephen. Shout out to those guys. And I saw Toodles and the Hectic Pity, who are sort of folky, punky, indie-ish. It's really hard to describe their sound, but it's noise for sad millennials who want to feel a bit anxious about the world. Hello!
I know
ding,
that
ding,
guy.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh, it's music for staring at your feet. In a good way. They're great. And then a band from Northern Ireland called Cherem, who we've actually played on the podcast before, because I saw them at Manchester Punk Festival. Thought they were really banging. They're like a sort of pop punky. They should be supporting Avril Lavigne, basically. They're high energy. They should be on the Clueless soundtrack, but really cool, queer, political, angry, really good fun. So that was my Friday night until we saw
Corinne Bailey Ray, the headline act, who was just spellbindingly good. It was amazing. I think we might have mentioned it before on the on the podcast before, but our internet's not good enough to check. So sorry if we've gone on about this before, because we have seen her on another podcast that we went to live in Leeds. Excellent egg.
Yeah, shout out to the Relistapa podcast.
Relistapa.
Yeah, if Richard Herring, if you're listening, fellow podcaster.
Yeah.
So we saw her talk about this album she made last year called Black Rainbows, which was inspired by an exhibition she went to about history of black, well, not black necessarily black culture, but representation of black people across history and advertising and magazines.
Artifacts, isn't it, that have been collected and restored in Chicago.
Yeah, inspired by an exhibition on black history at the Stony Island Arts Bank in Chicago, America.
And I love that when you hear that an artist is going to play a whole album, I sort of think, oh, they're just going to play the album. My experience has been that they don't interact that much, but
it's like a sort of concept landscape.
But she took time to tell the story, tell the inspiration behind each song, and even the way that she told the stories and introduced the song was just as beautiful and interesting and like amazing storytelling. The music, like I find the musicians, when they're not really performing, I know they are performing, but they're just like tinkering around in the background, I find them completely mesmerizing. And then you just got so much out of the song from hearing her inspiration behind them. I just loved it, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I definitely will go back to that album now with so much more insight. I feel like full and warm with those stories of people and places from American black history, of the sort of 40s, 50s, 60s, especially those characters she mentioned. Yeah, I felt that those characters were on stage. Get your hoods up.
It's been pouring down all day, relentlessly pouring down.
It's not let up.
Until about an hour ago, where the sun came out and went, hello, and we all went, hey, and did a little dance, and then it went away again, and it's going to rain. But it won't get us down, will it, Henry?
No, onwards and upwards.
No, I guess you were down.
I'm a little bit down. I was a bit out of it this morning.
Grumbly.
Yeah, listen.
Tell you what you don't want to wake up to when you're at a festival and you've slept in a damp tent all night. You don't want to be woken up by hordes of children and adults banging pots and pans.
The clattering
as they cheered on people who'd got up that morning to do a 5K run. That's the sort of festival this is.
Yeah, it's a festival for doers.
And I did not feel the love for them this morning. I was not thinking, as I wandered in my large raincoat and my sunglasses, like staggered to the Portaloos, and they were, absolutely belting it out, and there was people going, yeah, you can do it, amazing, being so positive and joyful and wonderful, and I was like, curses on you all, boo. But by the time I'd brushed my teeth and washed my face, they'd warmed my heart, and I was like, oh, they're all having a lovely time, aren't they?
And
lovely.
And not for the first time in 12 hours, you've got glitter on your face.
I have. Well, that's a must, isn't it? Apparently. Well, not for you. I did boop Henry's nose with glitter.
Is it still there?
Of course.
Ugh, that's not my vibe.
Oh, no.
My vibe is staring at my shoes and being a bit anxious and worried now.
Maybe I should have put the glitter on the top of your head so that when you're staring at your shoes, people can still see it.
We're having a lovely time, and we're going to go into our first interview of the episode, which is our chat with Marina Barham, who is part of the Al-Harah theatre in the West Bank of Palestine. Al-Harah translates as the neighbourhood, very community-driven space and building that bring young people and adults together, sharing joy under what is hideous circumstances of the military occupation, the settler colonialism that's happening in the West Bank. Here at Greenbelt, there's a lot of people talking about Palestinian solidarity, a lot of kafiyas.
Lots of Palestinians.
Yeah. Hopefully a lot of very real, tangible solidarity as well as celebrating the culture. So we're going to go into the interview with Marina, but before that, we thought we'd play.
Here comes the rain!
Here comes the rain! Natalie, what song are we going to play by Corinne Bailey Rae? What's your banger of the hour?
This is my banger of the hour. It's one of my favourite songs that she played last night. She talked about a ritual that she'd been a part of, where it was all about letting harmful stuff go and putting down the stuff that you don't need to carry. If it's not serving you, put it down. And she told the story about how they'd done a ritual, burned all the bad stuff, and then danced their socks off for 4 hours, which that's what we're planning to do now. Come rain or shine, we are going to go put down our bad stuff and dance it out. So this is Put It Down by Corinne Bailey Rae. Woo!
Start again, no, but I've done it again. There's only penitence in it. I don't wanna end up in a place like this. I'm gonna turn the king, get no peace. When I've gathered up all my walls, I put it down. I make a burden of all my walls and throw it down. Too much inside, I gotta dance it out. 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 You and I were gonna fight like we're lost in space. You and I were gonna fight like we're lost in space. Started again. And then let those demons take control of me. They ate my face and they swallow me. Now I'm back here again. Oh God, I wanna fill up in a place like this. Feel like I'm gonna turn the king, get no peace.
And we're here with Marina Barham, who is the General Director of Al-Harah Theatre in Palestine, in the West Bank. And I've been really looking forward to meeting you. So thank you so much for agreeing to chat to us before you give your great big talk. Very soon it's starting. So you've been in the UK for quite some time. How has your visit been so far?
Well, I've been here since the 17th of June in the UK, and I've been visiting different cities and having public events, speaking in different cities, and it has been great. I've met a lot of people who are very supportive, who are really aware of what is happening in Palestine and are not acting in silence, which was really good. So it has been wonderful. I met a lot of people working in theater, a lot of people working in different positions, and even some politicians in their own cities, which is very important too. I've been talking about Palestine, about what is happening in Gaza, about what is happening in the West Bank, and also about how important it is to make theater in Palestine for children, for young people, for women, for people with disability, and for the community. And also demanding people to make a stand and to have a free voice, because it's very, very important. And I was telling them that in this country, a long time ago, I remember they used to come and do workshops with us on democracy and freedom of expression. And I was really appalled when I heard that in some areas, for example, Birmingham University is taking the students who are on encampment to court. And this is completely crazy, because for me, students learn at university to respect human rights, to have freedom of expression, to have confidence, to be able to have a point of view. And now they're being punished for this. So I'm really appalled about this. But in general, meeting all these people who are so supportive and so aware and believe in justice gave me hope, you know. So I hope this hope continues to affect the new government also here in the UK, because I've heard at the beginning, before the elections, they had different points of view, and I'm hoping that now they can make sense, they can stop being complicit to what is happening with the genocide in Gaza, and also take a position towards human rights and the freedom of Palestine, because it's very important to think of that for the future.
Can you tell us about your work at Al-Harah Theatre? Can you paint us a picture of the activities that happen where people express themselves in your home?
Well, before, from the beginning, when we started Al-Harah Theatre, we wanted something that is really close to the community. So we started producing theatre for children, for young people, and for adults. And we also are a touring company, so we take our productions to different places in the West Bank, sometimes in the Arab world and sometimes internationally. We try to reach our audiences wherever they are. We also do a lot of training for children and young people, not to create actors like our partners in the Freedom Theatre in Jenin, but more to empower them, to give them a safe space where they can express themselves, talk about their dreams, talk about their fears. And recently, in the last 9 months, we've focused a lot on working with children in schools to help them overcome trauma through theatre, at least for some period of time where they can feel children, they can feel safe enough to express their fears and talk about what they're thinking, and also to feel that they are together, not only isolated being at home. We believe that theatre has a power to have positive change in our community and also make the life of people better. So we've been doing a lot of work with different age groups, with different people, people with disability, women, young children, and we know that we have affected a lot of the lives of these young people in their communities. And recently we have been also supporting our artists in Gaza, because a lot of them have been struggling to be safe in the last 9 months, and we have been communicating with them, and we thought that we could support some of their work by asking if they can have activities with the children, and they were doing great activities with the children in displacement centers, and we supported them to do that. And we hope that all the time we're trying to see if they are safe or not. We've been doing a podcast actually, which is also very important, because we have been always following the news in the Gaza Strip, and there are always numbers but no life stories. So we started collecting stories of children, of people who have been killed in Gaza, and making a recording about their life, and also translating it in English so it could have subtitles. And we've been sharing it on our social media and also with groups in the world, just to tell the life story of these people, that they have friends, they have family, they are children of people, just to make it more effective on people to understand these stories.
If there's a specific project or production that you're really proud of, maybe that puts young people's voices, what they wanted to say, is there something that you're like, this is, something that you're proud of that you made?
Well, we're proud of a lot of our productions, but recently one of the productions that we have been trying to tour with, because we feel it's very important to take it internationally, is a play called Meramiye, which means sage. And this play was based on the story of 6 Palestinian people who were forced to leave in 1948, and they ended up in Chile, in America, in different countries. And our colleague, who is a writer and a director, she's a young artist that has been working with us. Her name is Marina Barham, has made this play which tells their story and their dream that one day they might come back. So we toured with this in 2022 in Denmark, but with what is happening in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank, we feel it's very important to bring it to the UK, to bring it to many different countries, because it tells our history, and it tells people that not everything started from the 7th of October. We've been under occupation for 75 years. We have been under oppression on daily basis for a very long time, and we want this to stop because we're very tired.
Yeah, very tired. I bet you are. I was just wondering, speaking of the history, I think I've certainly noticed that since the 7th of October, there's been a lot of people coming to the movement for the first time. That's one of the small silver lining in a very dark cloud, is that it is waking some people up who have not been aware before. And so they're going on a very quick and intensive educational journey. So I was wondering about this tour that you've been on in the last month, or even the last 9 months, of communicating with the wider world and your wider audience. Are you noticing that there's new people coming on board, and what's that been like for you? It's tiring to have to keep telling your stories, I'm sure.
It's the opposite, actually. Before I came, I was in touch. I created these 2 groups on Messenger and WhatsApp of friends that I met over the years, just to update them what is happening, because I discovered they're not receiving the news because of the international media being controlled. So, but when I came to the UK, and also receiving so many messages from friends going to protests, to demonstrations, having events about Palestine, actually when I came, I remembered when I was at Warwick University in 1989, It was the time when they were having a lot of campaigns about South Africa and the apartheid. And going around the UK this time, I felt that this is the time for Palestine to do the same, to do the boycott, to do the activities, to do the events. And I felt it from people. I felt it, I mean, not huge numbers of people, but I know that there are a big number of people, not governments, people. And people are becoming more aware. People are becoming more interested. People are not wanting to stay silent. And being silent, I remember I read something about what Martin Luther King used to say. He said that people who are silent about oppression are also complicit. So I think people realize this. I've been meeting people who in the past I knew that they were not aware of what is happening or the history or what's going on. Now they're educating themselves. They're trying to learn. They're trying to know. They're trying to be active. I mean, I have friends who every Saturday send me pictures from the protest in London.
And in Leeds.
And no. These friends are in London, but I've seen pictures from Leeds, from Edinburgh, from Glasgow, from Liverpool, from all the cities that are all demonstrating for Palestine. But also, this has been what has been making me go on and have hope. I was very depressed at the beginning, and I lost hope in humanity, and I lost hope in everything. But what made me continue is these messages and these people, and seeing on television students and people demonstrating, people having events, organizing things. I've seen in Salisbury. And this is the place where I had over 78 people there. Most of them are over 70. After the event there, they also go to the street for a silent stand for Palestine. I've seen people on wheelchair, on crutches, very old people in the sun standing. And they told me they do this every Saturday. I could not believe that. So this showed me that there is some hope, that this is the time to stop the apartheid in Palestine, and that maybe we would have a chance to have our liberation, to have an end for the occupation. And the most important priority is to stop the genocide in Gaza.
Thank you so much. And we're going to stop there so that you can catch your breath before you start the talk. But we always like to ask our guests if they have a request of a song. So if there's a song you'd like us to play on the Vandal Factory podcast, what is it? And what's your reason for playing it?
Well, I've been using a song for all the events, for the entrance of the audience. And this song became very, very famous a few years ago because a very old lady, Palestinian lady full of wrinkles, started singing it from the old folklore of Palestine. We haven't heard it before as young people, but when she started singing it, a lot of children, a lot of young people started listening to it. So this song was prepared based on the old lady that is singing by El Funun dance group in Ramallah, who are also our partners and members in the Palestinian Performing Arts Network. And they also use it in some of their performances. So I asked for their permission to use it for the entrance of the... But it gives me such an emotional feeling when I listen to it. شامل لاليا هوالي لا تديري شامل لاليا رواليلو علي ليلة اللي باب هولولوم تفتح شامل لاليا رواليلو واني ليلة لبحث معي ليلة الريح الشامل لاليا رواليلو يا صيلي للويدة ويصيلي لي على الحبيلي لا باير ويليلو وسيلي للربلات خيلي للربيا معيلي للراسيار ويليلو وينسيلي للربيت رولولوح مع السالي ليلة ميار ويليلو وين خيلي للربيت عيلي لك خصاك طيلي لدشار ويليلو
That was Lover's Hymn by El Funoun Palestinian Popular Dance Troupe, and you can hear all the songs chosen by our artists and guests on a playlist on Spotify. So thank you, Marina, for what a lovely, strong, powerful conversation about bringing joy to people in such difficult circumstances, and all our love and solidarity to the people of the West Bank and Gaza.
Oh, and it's also worth mentioning that at Marina's talk, she mentioned that various people are trying to set up a Friends of Al-Harah theatre in the UK, so it's worth having a Google around and getting involved, seeing how you can support them.
We are on day 3 of our Greenbelt adventure. We're heading back to our little tent. I'm going to pop some trousers on. That's going to pop her eyes closed and have a little nap. But we're in good spirits, right, Natalie?
Spirits, yeah. We've a couple of hours ago we finished the live podcast on the Rebel Rouser stage, which went so well. I'm so grateful to everyone who turned up.
Nice little gang. Converts came up and said they've literally just subscribed. What more can you ask for?
So they're listening now. Hello, welcome to the Vandal Factory family. I've had such an amazing festival. It's really chilled out, friendly, welcoming energy everywhere, and just ideas and inspiration all over the shop. And it's sunny today. We're out of the rain. We're grateful for the sunshine, a little bit of a cool breeze, but we're tired now because we're full. We've come off stage. The adrenaline's dropped. We just had a nice big meal, and now we're like, I'm just gonna go back and reset again until we go again.
We go again. Keep going. Gone. We're going to play a piece of audio sent in to us for the Freelance Feelings Factory feature.
Freelance Feeling Factory, come on now. Freelance Feeling Factory, tell me all your feelings.
Get this girl on the main stage.
Yeah.
What a voice. What pipes. This is a piece of audio sent to us by a good friend, Katrina Man. If you want to send us anything for the feature that Natalie just sung about, get in touch, vandalfactorytheatre@gmail.com. Here's Katrina.
Hello, my name is Katrina Man and I am an art curator and art producer. I'm currently based in London, but I do work across the UK and a little bit internationally. In 2021, I went freelance. And something that I love about being freelance is the flexibility and the diversity in the work that I do. I really love being able to manage my own projects and manage my own time. I also really like being project-based and being able to work on different projects with different people, different artists, different communities, different spaces at any one time and throughout the year. It also really helps me have a strong sense of purpose in the work that I do, because since being freelance, I've managed to become increasingly more selective with the work that I choose to do. And I now only do work that really aligns with my missions and values, with my core mission being to make the arts more inclusive, diverse and sustainable. So I do particularly seek out to work on projects that really address the lack of representation in the arts. So working with POC communities and making sure that communities really have a strong voice in the art projects that I work on. And that could be anything from a theatre show to a visual art exhibition to a community workshop programme. Some negatives are that there can be some severe lack of boundaries in the arts. You know, a lot of us are doing it because we love the arts and cultural field. We spend our free time going to theatre shows, workshops, exhibitions. And so sometimes work can actually feel a bit like play and fun, which is great, but it can mean that then you succumb to that age-old issue of working all the time, especially if your work schedule is up to you to manage. And it can mean that then essentially you end up doing a load of unpaid overtime. Also, people tend to want you to be available 24/7, and people seem to be very keen on using like social kind of media tools like WhatsApp and Instagram for their primary mode of communication. And I find that means that it can be really hard to switch off, or when you're trying to communicate with friends and family using WhatsApp, it can be very distracting because you're also then getting work messages coming through. Another negative can be the unsociable hours. A lot of arts activity happens in evenings and weekends, which again can be very fun. Sometimes I try and kill two birds with one stone and invite friends to come and see the theatre show I'm working on, or come and join the workshop I'm doing on a Sunday. But it does mean that then the time that a lot of people have off, so that your family and friends who don't work in the arts have off, you may actually be working. And it can also mean that if you are freelance or juggling freelance work and part-time work, you may end up doing, a 6, maybe even 7-day week where you don't actually have a full day off during the week. Another negative can be the pay, particularly if you work in the public subsidised art sector, the non-profit art sector. It's definitely notorious for its relatively low pay. Again, because a lot of us do it, or most of us do it because we love it, that does help, and we get a huge amount of work satisfaction and sense of value and purpose doing our work. But it can mean that, trying to live and work in a city like London can be really difficult, because the cost of living crisis as well has just meant that London has become even more unaffordable for more people. And that can be a real issue when, particularly in the arts, already we are up against elitism and privilege, whereas really the arts should be a space for all to come and enjoy and to thrive in. So it does still mean that, a lot of people can only sustain careers in the arts if they have financial support elsewhere, or if they operate and live in more affordable places other than London. I would love to see more empathy in the arts. I think empathy is what makes the world go round. I think empathy has such a strong place professionally in the arts, as well as, in sort of subject matter of artwork. I think in order to really kind of harness the transformative power of the arts, it's great to really be able to use art as a tool to understand one another and to connect with one another, and to particularly bring people together who wouldn't typically maybe be able to find common ground or come together, to really be able to understand each other's lived experiences more. I also would love to see the implementation of more boundaries, both at sort of personal individual levels, but also at more kind of infrastructural, organisational levels. For example, companies using Slack or Discord as their instant messaging platforms rather than WhatsApp. I think that can really help people in the arts to disconnect and get some much needed rest when they need to, especially as burnout rates are just so high in the arts. So I would love to see that.
Thank you so much to Katrina for taking the time to send in that audio. I'm really happy that she was able to be selective with the work that she does to make sure it aligns with her missions and values. I totally relate to this idea that it's hard to switch off, especially in the arts, when you don't clock out from something that you love. You don't turn off and switch off. You don't just want a foot in the door, you want to be totally present. We move on now to our final interview of this episode. Me and Natalie spoke to Amber Massie-Blomfield, who has written an incredible book, Acts of Resistance, which looks at moments in history where art has tried to change the world and under the face of incredible, punishing, cruel circumstances. I think what's really special about reading Amber's book is there are so many different roots and connections and links where art and activism combine together. I hope on the Vandal Factory podcast we try and show that there are loads of different experiences, perspectives, methods, tactics, and there's no one definitive way to do something. You bring your passion to a movement, or a movement lends you its passion. The art speaks for itself, or the art speaks through us. Sorry, late night ramblings. Please enjoy our interview with Amber.
Hi.
Welcome, Amber. Thank you so much for coming on the Vandal Factory podcast.
Oh, it's lovely to be here. Thank you.
It's all right. So you have a vast CV that is stupendously impressive, and I'm going to send, everyone can go away and just Google how impressive your CV is. But can you summarize who you are?
Yeah, well, I'm principally, my sort of bread and butter is as a theatre producer. So I've worked with a lot of different theatre companies. Most recently, I was the executive director of Complicité for a few years. I was the executive director at Camden People's Theatre for a little while, and I'm currently doing some work with Actors Touring Company, who specialise in bringing international plays into the UK. And then I have a practice as a writer as well. And really, my writing is about the meeting point of arts and the world in different ways. And it's kind of really connected to my theatre producing, because very often it's me going, what on earth am I doing with my life? and working it out on the page and hoping that some other people will find that interesting. So yeah, it's kind of combines kind of memoir and cultural criticism and a little bit of history and discovery as well.
I need to remind myself regularly that writing is a practice, and it is something we do to process and to sort things out in our brain. That's certainly how I feel often.
And I think if you can sort of have that attitude that you're going to make sure you bring some benefit to yourself by doing it, then I don't know, it sort of helps you not worry too much about who's going to read it and whether it's going to be a big success or not. And actually you're doing it for yourself. And actually, I think that makes the writing more genuine too, for me.
Is that something you went into Acts of Resistance thinking, actually, I want to write this for me? And then, if you get to share those stories, that's a bonus. Wow.
Yeah.
So, well, you talk about acts of resistance. We should clarify what that is. So we have it right here, an actual physical book.
This is also an uncorrected proof, so we could get it on eBay and it'd be worth £1 million.
Whoa.
Yeah, all the time is in it.
So your amazing new book that's just come out is called Act of Resistance, The Power of Art to Create a Better World. Oh boy, you are in like the perfect place. We are so excited to, well, Henry's like plows through quite a lot of it already. And I've dipped, I'll be honest, I've dipped. And it feels like every page
you can dip.
Yeah, I've every page I open it on feels very quotable. But why didn't you tell us about what inspired you? You've said, it's about how you're processing and working out your own creative practice. But what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, so I started working on this book in 2018, which feels like a lifetime ago. And it really did. That was when I was working at Camden People's Theatre, and I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but it's sort of studio theatre close to central London. It's got an amazing programme of art that feels pretty political very often, pretty kind of left-leaning, I would say, pretty out there and experimental. And it was such an amazing, vibrant place to work. I had some of the happiest years of my career there. But, we were sort of, there was a long time where I just thought, I took it for granted that what we were doing mattered, and that, it was really powerful that these pieces of work were being made. And I just think there was that shift in 2016 where it just felt like the world got really bad and there was Brexit and Trump getting elected. And, so that summer of 2018, it was just, like really hot summer as well. And, with global warming and everything that was happening. And I just really got to thinking about, I guess I got a little bit despondent. And I was thinking, does it matter what I'm really doing with my life? Can't I be doing something more direct and powerful and important than sitting in this studio theatre with about 60 people coming in of a night and watching this experimental theatre? And so those were the questions that really sparked this journey. I was also very inspired by a book called Hope in the Dark by Rebecca Solnit, which I don't know if you've come across, but it's like the most amazing book about activists who've made real change. And actually it kind of is a brilliant book to read if you're just like, oh, activism can't change anything, because she goes, look, here's all the people that can. And I was like, well, I need this book for art, and I better write it then, hadn't I? So yeah, that was really it. And I just started researching. The first story I really got engaged with was about Susan Sontag and waiting for Godot during the siege of Sarajevo, which just seemed like, Susan Sontag was a fascinating person to write about, because she was someone who thought so deeply in her life about the purpose and the meaning of art. And then there was this very real example where she'd gone to Sarajevo and sort of in the midst of the siege worked with the local theatrical community to make a production of Waiting for Godot in the middle of, the rubble, with audiences coming through shell fire to be there and sit there and watch it by candlelight. And it was I couldn't get that image of it out of my head. And so that was where I really started going, well, what were they all doing there? Did it matter? Was it a complete waste of her time to go out and do that? And that was really where I got into it.
Yeah, something. Go on.
I was going to say what struck me in that chapter specifically was the sniffiness around the Western press of saying, "Oh, what's all this about? She thinks she can go out there and make a difference. Or we'd be better off sending medical aid than sending artists." But the quote that really stood out for me is someone who remembered it, I think, telling you that it was about defending civilization. And we actually had a long conversation about, well, what is civilization? Because sometimes people say we're civilized when we're Western powers that do horrible things around the world. But what I took that meaning of saying is that art as resistance is saying that we create a better world. We're civil and we're hopeful and joyful and human, and we're not falling to the chaos and the
baseline of violence.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, and there's something really interesting. I mean, there's loads to that, but I think there's something really interesting if you look at what's happening in Gaza now, and, so many situations of genocide. Actually, a real weapon of genocide is an attack on culture, and the kind of, the insistence on people not as humans, as animals, and that kind of language that gets used around this. And so actually, I think, the people from Sarajevo, and actually on Saturday, I was chairing a panel discussion with some theatre makers from Palestine at the Royal Court. And it was, they were talking about how very important it was for them to keep making art, to retain this sense of humanity in the face of, forces that are completely trying to reduce their dignity and their humanity. And I find that a really beautiful idea. And I think, those of us that are in the privileged position of not having to worry about being shot when you're walking down the street, probably browbeat about, does art really matter? And is it really privileged to think this? But then suddenly these people in this situation just, take it for granted that it matters and that it's important, and they don't have time for that browbeating about, what it's all about. So I find that really moving.
So we're completely coincidentally, we've also interviewed Miriam from Batjela, and so she will be the other guest on this same podcast.
Oh, no way! That's brilliant.
So
that's really
when
cool.
we saw it on your social media, we were like, "Wow,
it's all coming together." Oh well, she's so inspiring, and I mean, just she was talking on Saturday. Well, I won't steal her thunder too much, but she was talking about her colleagues that are in Gaza now and that are working with school children, school age children, running drama workshops with them. And, them saying, oh, well, isn't it dangerous to get all these children gathered in the same place? But their colleagues in Gaza saying it's dangerous whatever happens. And this is giving them a reason to smile. And they have so few reasons to smile. And that's so powerful.
Yeah, when she was talking, the phrase that kept coming to my mind was give us bread and give us roses. Oh, give us bread and give us roses.
Yeah.
And that need for quality. It's not just about surviving. There needs to be a reason to survive.
And you might come across on Instagram the Gaza Free Circus, which I find so moving, that they're sharing all these videos of, in the middle of these displacement camps where it's just all completely sandblasted, windswept, people are starving, but they're putting on clowning routines, and they're putting on, red noses and performing juggling routines and acrobatics for the children. And what a beautiful thing to do in that context. I'm sorry, I find it quite emotional to talk about it.
Of course it is. We're in very, very dark times. And so the need for angry, hopeful resistance, and those being performative, and not just performative, but visual, and telling stories that we can see and express, and finding different ways to tell stories that are acts of resistance just feels all the more important. Like that, basically, if you're not doing that, it's a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think, that's for me, there's a really interesting role for art within activism, actually, is to bring some joy to activism and to say, you're allowed to find joy in your creativity within this context. And, I talked a bit about going on the Palestinian protests, and there's an amazing sound system called Pulse for Palestine that are always on the London marches. And if you catch up with them, you just have you have a great time on the protest, and you like those two things can sit alongside each other, that you can feel the horror and the overwhelm, and just the profound grief about what's happening, but at the same time you can also recognize there's something so beautiful in this kind of solidarity that you're forming with other people in this community. And art and music and theater and all those art forms can really give expression to that, I think, in an amazing way.
I mean, so this book, writing this book, has been a long process, and so much has changed for you. What are you coming away with now that it's physical? This must feel amazing, by the way. Whenever I speak to a writer, I'm just like, you made a thing.
I
Yes,
know, that's it, isn't it? It's
you made
great.
a
It's really
thing.
great. Yeah, no, that's a lovely
What
feeling.
what does it feel like to I guess, what does it feel like to write a book? But that's just me projecting.
It's
But also,
so
what are you really taking away from the last 8 years?
Gosh. Well, I think I think to the first point, it's really interesting when you're a theatre person, because, when you work in theatre, you're so used to kind of having the press night and everything orientates towards the press night, and you've got everyone in the room and you can see the whites of their eyes and you can work out what they thought about it. And it's kind of all, made or not made, then you've got a sense of what you've got, whereas with a book you sort of have your launch party and everyone comes along and tells you you're great and has a glass of wine, but most of them haven't read the book yet, and then you sort of have this period when you're waiting for it to go out in the world and people to start reading it, and people to start feeding back. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. And yeah, it's just really fascinating what kind of chimes with people and what stands out, and everyone comes back with a different story, or they'll quote something back to you where you're like, oh, I'd completely forgotten I'd written that, but that sounds good. So that's lovely that it's got that life that it takes on, and it's so different. And I think I'm really fascinated about kind of how different art forms move in the world as well, and also the political power of different art forms and what they can all do that's quite different. There was a second part to your question. I've forgotten what it was.
Yes. How are you a different Amber to the Amber who
Oh
started
yeah,
writing this
yeah.
book?
Well, I'm much more radical, and I wasn't.
Hey!
Yeah, and I think I've got, I've always sort of been interested in activism, but I wasn't very committed activist before. I've become, I was an arts person who liked political art, but I wasn't really a person who went out on every single protest march. And, I really, really believe in protest now. And I really believe that activism can change things. And I think that art as part of activism can change things. And so, yeah, it's changed me in that way. It's enriched my life enormously. It's probably thrown up a lot of questions about contexts I will and won't work in that I wouldn't have had before, annoyingly. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's made me want to give my life to this work, really. And that's really cool. And it answered the question, without any spoilers, but it did answer the question that I think art does matter, but maybe not in quite the way I thought it did when I started out.
Our last question that we ask all our guests is what song would you like us to play on the Vandal Factory podcast, and why?
Yeah, so I've chosen Sunshine by Ashake, who is amazing Nigerian Afro pop artist who I just have this, there's a story in the book about a project called the Power Station, which is in Walthamstow, where they're kind of turning their street into a solar power station as a work of art.
Yeah.
I
They
got
went,
to
they went up on the roof for like around Christmas time. They're like, we're not coming down until we've raised a certain amount of money.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
that them?
Exactly. I was
Yeah.
there for 3 weeks. They're so like that for me is such a beautiful project. And they had this day that they called Sunflower Day, where they filled their street with 10,000 sunflowers, and they're really trying to get everyone in their community involved in it. And they had this big kind of communal street party. And I just have a real memory of being at that party and this song playing, and then it became a real sort of part of the soundtrack to the book. So I thought it's a beautiful song, and it's kind of, you know, strikes a note of hope and optimism.
Ọlọ́ládé mi Àṣàkẹ́.
Ọmọ yìí kò kakú, ó fẹ́ lówó bíi Dangote, ó ní láti jagun. Ìgbádùn ayé pọ̀ lẹ́yìn ìpọ́njú, má bẹ̀rù rọ́jú. Sun's gonna shine on everything you do. Ọmọ náà wò lè wákú, àbútí gbé bakú. No dey form say you jaju, try to dey kaku. Ali Celeste handles my situation, all my pains and my troubles. Steady light in my candle, chop knock with a part of the struggle. No one. Sun's gonna shine on everything you do. Happiness on the way, oh my God. Light up my fire, loloke. Mr. Money, me I'm a load, shake. One body shake it. Don't tell we I don't see them. I be the over, me no be like Yazoo. That was okay, I mean that motion. Eyes on me, I know people. Jamulo me, no be sodo. Money really, jaka sodo. If I didn't come on, be some mommy Joe. 24 karat sati, baby jazzy, I be classic, you mighty. Bad boy from starting, no Miami, il est pour Illuminati. Ọmọ yìí kò kakú, ó fẹ́ lówó bíi Dangote, ó ní láti jagun. Ìgbádùn ayé pọ̀ lẹ́yìn ìpọ́njú, má bẹ̀rù rọ́jú. Sun's gonna shine on everything you do. Ọmọ náà wò lè wákú, àbútí gbé bakú. No dey form say you jaju, try to dey kaku. Ali Celeste handles my situation, all my pains and my troubles. Steady light in my candle, chop knock with a part of the struggle. No one. Sun's gonna shine on everything you do.
Ooh, lovely. That was sunshine, and the sun has been shining this morning.
On our last morning, we're all sat with our bags packed. The tent has come down, and we're all waiting for the little buggy to take us back to the box office, and we're sad.
And our throats are raspy and ruined, but we're happy and merry. Thank you to Amber for such an amazing interview, an amazing book. Like, do go and pick it up. I certainly think, reflecting on this weekend of going to talks and seeing performers saying powerful political things, that this book of documenting, of recording, of saying, you know, what's come before and where we are now is so vital.
It's so inspiring and thought-provoking. Yeah, it's really great.
Well, yesterday, massive highlight. Firstly, I went to see Saeed Silbak, who is an oud player from Palestine, and he's previously been featured on our Palestine Solidarity special episode. And I just laid on the grass, had my eyes closed, and just let the waves of beautiful instrumental oud playing wash over me, which was delightful.
But it's not just been me and you at this festival, has it, Henry Raby? No, we've been with our dear friends, also friends of the podcast, Hannah and Joms. Hi, guys.
Hi. Our entourage. Hannah previously appeared talking about her poetry collection. The episode is called Thrown Back into the Fray. Hannah, how's your bloody Greenbelt been, mate?
It's been a really good crack, Henry. I've had a lovely time. It's been good. It's been quite challenging in places. Yeah. It's a very different type of festival experience that I'm used to. But it's been good. And I've seen some really good music acts that I've not seen before. I think my favourite was Dam, the Palestinian hip-hop band who absolutely bought the vibe. And I really enjoyed Disraeli. And I met a man who was training to be a priest.
We should say we've not really spoken much, but we've said it's a festival about music and activism and also belief. And this is based on progressive Christian principles, I suppose. There's a lot of solidarity and charities working with refugees. There's a lot of LGBTQ representation. I'm sure there are bigots here. I'm sure there are, I'm not saying it's perfectly perfect as a safe space. But I guess their voices are drowned out by the voices of progressive people trying to make inclusive, safer spaces.
And what is really nice is that we're sat here under a tree with red flags flapping in the wind, sitting on our bags waiting for a buggy. But if you look around at the field, it's absolutely spotless and beautifully green, and everybody's cleared up their shit, which I think is a good message to take
of the person, doesn't it? I mean, there isn't there's not a bottle opener, there's not a tea bag, there's nothing on the grass. Everyone is just like, it's very it's very civilized, isn't it? We felt like we were the least civilized people here.
Yeah, we were the rowdy lot, but I also think like my feeling is a lot of it runs on volunteers, and that can be exploitative. But a lot of people have come and they've had great experiences as children. They've been coming for like 20, 30 years and they want to give some back. And that is a bit sort of transactional. They want this community to thrive. But of course, we've also got our good friend Bram Jarman, also an amazing poet and playwright, as featured on the Henry Does His Own Thing jingle. Jarms, how's your Greenbelt been? What are your reflections?
I've had an absolutely lovely weekend in a field with friends. On Saturday night, I misplaced my bag with my bank card and lots of my possessions in it. And then I went back the next morning to the very well-organised lost property tent with the two people who were running a spreadsheet of all the lost property. And some wonderful person had handed my bag into the lost property. And I think that speaks a lot about the vibe of this festival.
And any other festival, it would be long gone, right? Or it would come back, but it'd be sans any bank cards and stuff.
It made me feel really bad for the 4 handbags that I'd stolen before that happened.
And music-wise or talks, what are you taking away?
Oh, I really enjoyed Disraeli, really enjoyed Dam. Yeah, there's been some incredible performances this week, especially on the Glade stage. Really enjoyed the presence of some of the artists and watching them sort of embody their own work and their own message has been brilliant. But yeah, I would say my highlight was Disraeli.
I really enjoyed, and I don't know, the way you got to see the artists work a different sort of crowd. And I don't know, it's like there's a real sort of gentle sense of permission at this festival, I think. And to get that sort of collective mosh pit vibe, it just takes a lot longer to get there. And I think it's really interesting seeing the artists deal with that. And also seeing them like in a space where they really appreciate being completely listened to, like really engaged with. And that's quite interesting. It's not rare. I think that's quite rare that you see that.
So the audiences are perhaps less rowdy than you might expect, but also are paying attention and like really deeply engaged in whoever's on stage, even when it's like 10 o'clock at night and they're a headline act.
Yeah, totally. But then there's also this sort of slightly wild part of the festival. Like if you tap into it, like when we went to the Hot House at a certain time of night when all the acts had gone, And it felt a bit like there's lots of teenagers wanting to grind to Taylor Swift. Do you know what I mean?
I think we've seen, our boogies here. Oh, amazing. Well, that's all, folks. Thanks very much. Bye. Hello. Hi. We've had a night or two to recover from our festival antics, and we're feeling fresh as a daisy.
It helps we've had proper showers and proper cups of tea.
There's a reason why houses are very popular, isn't it? No, camping was great, and we had such a good time at Greenbelt Festival. Thank you so much to all the organisers and all the volunteers.
Yeah, so our live episode we recorded there on the Rebel Rouser stage with the Lunar Tractors will be available next month. So
yeah, check out everything the Lunar Tractors do. They are absolutely magnificent. And if you have the chance to see them live, do it. You will not regret it. We struck gold with the acts that we saw at Greenbelt. Damn, were next level awesome.
So they are one of the first, if not the first hip-hop act to rap in Arabic. They are based in occupied Palestine. They've been going for 20 years, and their music is revolutionary and radical and political and funny and cheeky and clever. And their performance was just an hour of bouncy energy, especially from Mesa Dore, who is the female member of the collective. She was just having the absolute time of her life, that this was a party to break down the walls, and then switching it up to reading a poem about the female body with this stern strength. Just incredible, life-changing.
We absolutely loved it. Yeah, I mean, I think at one point I turned to you and I was like, that's what freedom looks like. I was like, that is why artists matter. Like, that is why they target artists, because there's no way you could see them and hear what they're saying and feel their energy and not want freedom for every Palestinian on this planet. Like, that's why it's a danger. Right, and it was a awesome thing to behold, as was Bob Vylan. I think that was my takeaway. Another highlight. Oh, Bob Vylan was so good.
So good.
So good.
Well, it's also worth saying about Dam is that as they rap in Arabic, like you've got a little bit, we picked up some shukrans, thank you, some yalas, yeah. But we could tell when this was a fist in the air song, when this was a bouncy let's have a party song. There was a little bit of chat in between, but they just came and did the job. This was a quaking of Greenbelt, and it was just like quaking your heart. It's this joy and rage, and it's resistance. And same for Bob Vylan. Like he's great stage banter, but the songs are like tossing a grenade into the audience and go, have fun with that, exploding. And something I'll take away is that, you know, those young people, a lot of teenagers in the mosh pit, the only mosh pit I saw of the weekend, easily the heavily... Well, no, there were mosh pits on the Rebel Rouser stage, but that sort of larger, like big festival vibe of a pit, those young people will carry that. You know, we've been in our fair share of pits and dancing and political gigs, but if you were 13, 14, 15, 16 seeing this band say the things they were saying on stage, like you'll carry that forward. Hannah and Steve, thank you so much for booking us on the Rebel Rouser stage, and also Joanna and Paul, who were part of Greenbelt, also in a couple of emails with us, so thank you very much for that. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, this has been a bit of a chunky episode. Please subscribe, please follow us on social media, please share. If you think you know people who would be interested in these conversations, please pop it in those WhatsApp groups. Please mention it to your pals. Like, we are a DIY independent podcast. We don't get any sponsorship, so everything that you can do to just give us a nudge, we really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. All the best. We love you all very, very much. 1.
Palestine will be free.
2.
Fascism will be destroyed.
3.
Joy is resistance.
Now, 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 now.